Republican strategist and CBS News contributor Frank Luntz is here in Studio 57. CBS News political director John Dickerson is in Washington. Good morning to both of you. Good morning. Frank, let me begin with this. Why didn't Eric Cantor see this coming when other Republican establishment members did see it coming and fought it back?
Well, right now there are 230 House Republicans who are waking up praying that they do not have Eric Cantor's pollster. Honestly, and I'm one of them, we Republican pollsters suck. We have no ability to be able to analyze the electorate. His pollster told him 12 days ago that he was going to win by 34 points, and then he loses by 10. So, number one, he didn't even see it coming.
Mitt Romney's pollster, he told him he was going to win.
It was pollsters. There's something, you have to be able to analyze who is actually going to vote, who's going to participate. But Charlie, it's deeper than that. This is also about this anti-Washington mood that still exists. If the candidates come home, if they spend time in their districts, if they campaign hard like Mitch McConnell did, like Lindsey Graham did, right. These are people who survived very tough primaries. Down in Texas, the Texas senator. Eric Cantor never thought that he had a problem, and so he wasn't as much back in his district. He was out helping Republicans all across the country.
This has huge implications, John. A top Republican said to me last night, this means immigration reform is 100% dead. Is that how you see it?
Yes, although it was 99.5% dead, because even before this, you had a lot of, in February I talked to a House leadership aide, and they said, look, the Chamber of Commerce wants immigration reform, lobbyists want immigration reform, but they can't primary a member of Congress. And what they were saying essentially is they don't have the power that the grassroots has to put a challenger up against a sitting member of Congress. And that fear of a challenger is what keeps members of Congress nervous and from doing anything bold or different than what their constituents want. Well, that was the fear in February. Now we've seen a race where even if you've got the power and the money of the majority leader and you've been in Congress for 7 terms, you can still get walloped by a grassroots candidate. And this was a true grassroots candidate. He wasn't just propped up by a bunch of elites claiming to speak for the Tea Party. This was a person who grew right out of that district.
All right, so what does it mean for the Republican Party and for President Obama after the midterm elections?
Well, you had Eric Cantor had a very good relationship with Joe Biden, had open lines of communication. I think for the GOP, it's going to be very dangerous now for a Republican to talk to Democrats, as it was Democrats to talk to Republicans a few years ago, that this is a blow for conversation. This is a blow for some sort of cooperation, and I think it's bad for the country, not just bad for the Republicans.
I'm curious about what it means, though, for the midterms and for the 2016 presidential race. If immigration reform is dead, totally dead, what does it mean for the Republican Party's efforts to regain a standing with Hispanic voters?
It's going to be very tough. When Mitt Romney used the phrase self-deportation, that was the end for a lot of Latinos. And the challenge now for the GOP is to be able to appeal also. It's not just the Latinos. It's middle-aged women in suburbs who see how the Republicans relate to these other groups, and that's how they decide, does the GOP care about them?
John, are we making too much of one election here in terms of the Republican Party?
Well, that's what we do, and so yes, we are. But Charlie, we're not the only ones. I mean, members of Congress and those who are running in 2016 are going to take lessons from this too. And the lesson is, do not get too far from what your base wants. And so I think
that's not a new lesson.
No, it's not a new lesson, but some people got 2 or 3 feet away. Now it's going to be 2 or 3 inches at best. And so there has been a back and forth in the Republican Party about how much the noise from the activists really matters. And this is a big win for the activists. And in 2014, there are a lot of candidates that have won by listening to those activists, so-called establishment candidates who have won by appealing to Tea Party voters. In 2016, what will be interesting is what are the tests that show that you are a candidate of principle, and there will be a real fight to show I am more principled than you are, and that tends to push parties to their most extreme areas because everybody's trying to be more principled than the other, and that's part of what caught Mitt Romney up in the primaries last time around.
And that's part of what Americans are fed up with. I think this is such a great loss, not just for Virginia, but for the country. Eric Cantor had the ability to negotiate. Eric Cantor had the ability to sit toe-to-toe and make concessions and make agreements, and maybe that hurt him in the primary. But that's exactly what we need in Washington, and now we're losing it.
And finally, as Nora said to me, he was a pipeline to Wall Street, too, in raising money.
but he was also a pipeline to Americans who just wanted people to get things done. And we've lost that leadership in Washington.
Frank Luntz and John Dickerson, thank you both. Very interesting.